Since Snoekie started making some clothes for the Renosterkop crowd, she has been very busy. And the guys are very, very happy. Out with the old and in with the new. Making pants for the WWE Action Figures is a challenge. If I use the traditional pattern, which is 2 cuts and 2 legs, you have a problem to join them at the crotch and the back, because these things are tiny and they're very small. So I was looking for an alternative, and this is how I do it now. Making pants for the WWE Action Figures can be quite a challenge. And I have first tried to do it with the 2 parts that has to be sewn together at the crotch and the back. But this is too small. I'm struggling with it. I'm trying a new plan now, how to make pants fit. The first step is to cut a piece of cloth that is double the length of what you need, and then fold it double so that the open ends are at the feet. I have made a pattern, basic pattern, and traced it on styrene and cut it out so that it can form a good template. Now this is, it's important to note that the legs you have to judge per doll, and the template is just an indicator. Now I have marked out the length of the pants for this specific doll, so that I know how far the legs must go. The next step is to trace the pattern out on the material. And for this I use this chalk and crayons that I bought at the haberdashery shop. The next step, I've made some clear marks, those white dots that you see. Well, that is where the garment starts and where it stops. And it is vitally important that you mark the point in the crotch properly, because if you don't sew there accurately, the pants will not fit well. That is now the inner seam done, and note that I took care to line the crotch stitching up. Yeah, the one is a little bit skewed on the one leg, but that's not serious for me. And there it is now. The inner seams and the outer seams has been stitched. Now it is time to fit it for the doll. First thing you have to do is to cut it open at the top, because you folded your material double and it is still joined there. I have now trimmed some of the excess cloth off on the bottom end and on the sides, but don't cut too short. In case you need to make alterations, you need some material there to work with. And I have cut it open at the waist. I have also now split it at the crotch, but you have to be careful here that you don't cut your stitching, because there's very little space right up at the top at the crotch. So be careful. Okay, this is now the first fit. You check to see if your length is fine, and if it's high enough, it can give you enough room at the top to work it off. And it is important now to make sure that the legs fit nicely. And so if the pants is now too loose, you can put it back in the machine and take it a little bit in over the legs. You can make your life a lot easier by using a stretch material, which I have done a few times, but sometimes you want some decent material. The problem we have here on these dolls is that there will be play around the waist, and you'll have to make a plan with that. You can't sew it too tight because then you won't get it over their butts. Now that I'm happy with the fit, I went ahead and trimmed the excess material off close to the seams. But be careful that you don't cut your stitching. I'm going to use this fabric adhesive to put in hems on the trousers. Normally I don't do this if it's a material that do not fray, but I want to do something special with this pants. This is my basic pattern for the pants for the girls. Just remember that the leg length you'll have to judge on each one of the dolls, as well as the distance from the crotch to the waistband on each of the dolls. But this is the basic pattern. And your stitch line will be right on the edge of this. Here you can see I have now folded back the hem on the side that was glued. When I stitched the legs, I cut the legs off a little bit past the stitching so that I can fold back for the hem. Here you can see where my stitching stopped and where did I cut the material. That little bit of extra there is what I'm using to put in the hem. When using the adhesive, be careful not to use too much, and then I use a paper clip to spread it properly and evenly. And you want to make sure you reach the edges, because these pants are tight fitting and the feet of some of these dolls can't move. So if there's a loose edge, the shoes will pull the edge. After gluing the hem, and it's complete, I roll some tissue paper and put it into the legs to allow the glue to dry completely. You don't want to accidentally glue those legs closed. It is important to remember that the pants is still inside out. And I'm now working on the waistband. I have applied the glue and I'm waiting for it to dry. I'm going to glue this piece of blue ribbon in to use it to fasten the pants at the back. The ribbon has been glued in, and I put this tweezer in there just to keep the pants open while the glue dries. The waistband has now been glued completely, and now I have to wait for it to dry properly before I flip the thing inside out. And it is now done. The pants has been flipped inside out. Now the next thing is we'll see how it fits. Okay, so the pants is done. And I also just made a simple boob tube out of a very stretchable material. And now this doll is presentable. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to the channel. There is many more stories to be told.
about renosterkop.